Hi, I'm Rachel Anne Goodman, a journalist and professor of journalism at Cabrillo College. And one of my favorite things to do is teach students how to use equipment and tell stories about their local community. And I'm very pleased today to introduce my students from Cabrillo College's broadcast writing class, who are going to share with you today the stories they produced around Santa Cruz County, as well as talking about what it means to be a voter and be under 25 and what it means in our culture and our politics. So I'm very pleased to be able to introduce Ricardo Abundes, who's going to be your host today. Thanks for watching.
Hello everyone, this is Ricardo Abundes from Rachel Goodman's Cabrillo Writing for the Broadcast Media class. Today, I'm joined by Eric Bracken, Wendy Harris, Rodrigo Moraz, and Eric Beatty. We'll be talking about young people in politics. Why do they vote? Who do they vote for? And what are their motivations? We'll start off the panel by asking you guys, do you guys vote? And if so, in what elections?
Well, I've voted in the only election I've been eligible to vote for. I missed being 18 for the 2012 election by a week exactly, but I did show up for the midterm, one of only 20% of eligible voters under 30, so that was certainly interesting.
I am actually really active now. I got really active, though, about when I was 30. From the time I voted in the 2000 election, I did not vote again until the 2010 election. I guess that would make me the perfect case study for this, but I really couldn't tell you why. But now I'm extremely active. I just went canvassing for Bernie Sanders yesterday. I am a candidate to be delegate for District 18. So, yeah, but I'm definitely going to be voting this year.
Well, only being 18 myself, this is going to be the first year that I'm eligible to vote. So, growing up, seeing the past couple elections and not being able to really make a difference in who I wanted to vote for, it's really important that I feel like I can go out and make a difference now and just vote.
I'm 21. I believe the last time I voted was a couple of years ago. I also missed the presidential election by a bit. I believe what I voted for was just a couple laws. Other than that, I can't say that I'm too politically involved.
Well, what I personally find interesting about especially the midterm elections is that really less than 20% of registered voters, not just people eligible to vote, not just 18-year-old natural-born citizens, but of the people who are registered, only about 20%, often less, show up during the midterm elections. But right now, Congress has an 11% approval rating, so that leads me to ask, if we dislike our Congress people so much, why don't we actually pay attention to which ones we're voting for? I mean, kind of seems like a no-brainer, but everyone just wants to elect the highly visible policymaker. Everyone wants to show up for the presidential horse race.
Yeah.
But
well, I think that goes into some of the statistics that I've been looking up. And this one came from the U.S. Census Bureau, where it said that 37% of people were too busy to actually vote for these things. And, well, yes, they most likely want to change Congress and whatnot. They feel that they're too busy to actually change it due to work or whatever. In my experiences, I worked as a blue-collar worker for a while there, and a lot of these people are very disgruntled, but to make ends meet, they're often too busy to actually get involved with the elections and whatnot.
I think this is definitely like a good topic. because a lot of us like young people, we have to go to school and then like work just to like stay afloat. So then like when it comes to politics, like we're trying to be involved, but at the same time there's just so much going on with school and we want to pass our classes and we need to make money to eat, and then it's like, oh yeah, well, I can vote for like the big election, but I think a lot of us are forgetting that all elections matter, not just the presidential election, and we need to be more involved, I think, with voting for our Congress and the House of Representatives. And
I'd even say the presidential election matters less. I mean, sure, the president can write laws and veto laws, but the president does not vote on laws, ultimately. We're not really fixing any of the problems in our legislative process by picking a new executive. And, I mean, it's also of note that, there's a Senate race going on in California right now. I haven't seen anything about it on the news. Very popular Attorney General Kamala Harris is running. Still haven't heard anything about the other candidates. Haven't even heard it mentioned, even on local news, even in Bay Area news.
Yeah.
Most
The media is
people
just so flooded. Honestly, the media is just flooded with all these, basically just only with the major political election, basically just presidential, or sorry, I should say a presidential election, and it's just so focused on these supposedly more interesting people, because they just say, or I know definitely with Trump and whatnot, they just say some crazy things, and that's much better viewing material than someone who's actually serious about bringing positive change to the world. But
The thing about the midterm elections and the local stuff is like we do a lot of complaining about, oh, we have these extremes or, we have these horrible choices. And what people don't seem to realize is nobody just wakes up one day and says, I'm going to be president, and they just go for it. All of the choices we have, all of the politicians and public servants that we have that we vote for in these big elections, they come up through the local government. And if you really want to change the system and change who you have to vote for on the congressional level or on the executive level, it really matters that people get involved in the local politics and they promote the people that are supporting the kinds of policies and coming from the kinds of places that we want our representatives to be coming from. But it's also so hard because we are so flooded with information these days. It's like the freedom of speech has been taken, they don't block you from saying anything, so they just put everything out there, and then where do you focus and what do you pay attention to? And I don't know that it's being shown to people before they're of voting age that it's the level of importance that it is. Like I said, I didn't vote myself from the time I was 20 to the time I was 30, and that's making ends meet, and it's learning how to be an adult and building your life, and nobody ever pointing out the dozens of ways every single day that the decisions made on the local level by these people that are elected in the midterm elections affect your life. And you have to go through that daily life, week after week, month after month, year after year, and see these patterns and see what's affecting your life before one day you wake up and you're 30 and you go, wait a minute, this matters. And now that I've watched these things happen, it matters. And how do we get across to people whose lives have been mapped out for them? Because until you're 18, you don't make any major decisions. How do you get across to those people all the ways that voting in these elections affect their lives without them seeing it firsthand?
another problem that we have, I believe, is that a lot of young people, especially with like the media, see politicians as like these, horrible people who are not right to like be in power. But then you can ask them to give you an example, and they're kind of like struck. They just know politician means bad. But when you ask them for an example, they don't know what's going on. What do you guys think could happen to have like politicians be like less demonized?
Well, there's no real significant media coverage of candidates in local elections. That's a major problem. If you don't know who such and such running for county supervisor is, then they're suddenly just another politician who falls into all the stereotypes you've already learned about politicians. And if 30% of people are too busy to vote, how many of those people who said they were too busy to vote in a midterm are going to be too busy to research the candidates in a midterm election? I mean, allegedly they're too busy even to show up at the polls, much less spend months trying to figure out the policy positions of someone they've never even heard of, you know?
There's also there's this self-fulfilling cycle going on. I recently had the opportunity to speak to one of our county supervisors about the issue of youth in elections and participation, and he was talking about, you know, there's 35,000 people in the part of the county he supervises, and he was like, okay, so I have all this information and all these statistics that tell me who the actual voters are, because there's what they do and the information we buy, and then there's, you know, who's registered and then who actually shows up. And when his numbers are all crunched, the total number of people voting from 18 to 25 in his area is 53. And when there's 53 people from that age group, it does not make sense for these people they do have limited resources on who they reach and what issues they are able to affect while they're in office. And it doesn't make sense for the politicians to be catering to people in that younger age group, to be, you know, catering to the issues that you care about, or, you know, what's going to get you out to the polls, if historically it's been shown that the young people just aren't showing up. But then the young people aren't going to show up when they're talking about things, you know, like homeowner taxes, you know, property taxes. Like, we don't care about that. We care about what bus lines are going to get us around town and what they're doing to pay for our school, but they're not going to talk about that if we're not showing up to vote. And it's really just this catch-22, and how do we fix that?
Well, I think that the responsibility then lies with the younger voters. For me personally, I feel like a lot of younger voters are very passionate about change, and you know, they're all very angry because, or not angry, but like they're very passionate because basically life is being thrown onto them, where they're, you know, escaping from childhood and they come into this world, and you know, it seems harsh, and they want to change it and make it better, but they're still uninformed, and so they don't know how to change it. And so when they hear things like, oh yes, this politician is horrible, or oh, this politician will bring you great things, they get all behind it without, kind of like what was said before, where they don't really know what the politician necessarily stands for, and they just get, I guess you could say,
Disillusioned?
yes, exactly.
So I mean, another thing I was talking to someone about recently is, and I don't know how much this affected the voting culture, but I know that the last election that I had participated in 2000, the popular vote did not go to the candidate who ultimately was awarded the presidency. And that made a lot of people feel like their votes just don't matter. And if you have to do all of this research and you know, to know who you're voting for and show up, and then ultimately you feel like your vote didn't even matter, that's going to affect the way people participate. And while that's a little different for me because I am older than the rest of you, I think that affected the culture, and that there was a cultural shift away from the importance of voting. But how do you guys think, because you guys are in the age group that we're talking about, how do you think it might be possible to get across to people how important, especially the local and midterm elections are, and how big of an effect they have on your life? What do you think could be done to start to shift this trend of young people not voting?
Well, in my opinion, the biggest problem is in media coverage. The biggest problem is that there are 6 Democratic candidates for senator, and I've done my research, I can only name one of them. Most people in this state don't even know there's a Senate election going on. That's a fault with the press. I mean, how are people supposed to be... How can people just building their lives be expected to do all the research necessary to make a fully informed decision in a local election? Isn't that what local news is for? I mean, who exactly is being helped by human interest stories about an animal shelter in San Jose when they can't even name their county supervisor, when they can't even tell you who's managing their water district?
Yeah, no, I agree. Because I watch the local news, and as you say, very little coverage on that. Major coverage is just strangely on national problems, not, as you say, local problems, which would probably solve the problem. Once again, though, I feel like a bit of responsibility lies in the voters, and they should invest more time into knowing who to vote for, or who they support, or whatnot. But I suppose you could also argue that, as I said before, they're just too busy with their lives and trying to figure out other things and trying to basically live their lives.
Is posting about these things something that you do on your social media that you share with your peer group?
It is, but I can certainly tell you that they're not the most popular posts. I mean, you can post about an attorney general called Kamala Harris who's running for California Senate, and it may get a couple likes, but it's not going to get comments or real substantial discussion from people who have no opinion and don't know the other candidates.
Okay, looks like that's all the time we have for discussion. Again, this has been Ricardo Bundes, Eric Bracken, Wendy Harris, Rodrigo Moraz, and Eric Beatty from Cabrillo College's Writing for the Broadcast Media class. Up next, we will switch over to some commercials, followed by some commentaries that we've created throughout the semester.
For someone to help, to vote, please say you'll be the answer for an innocent Jeb Bush today, a man who needs your help. Call 1-800-PLEASE-VOTE-FOR-ME or go to jebbush.com. Support the Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Jeb Bush today. Don't let the Jeb Bush abusers win. This is your chance to say, I won't sit by while Jeb suffers. Please call or go online right now.
As the potential future president of the United States, Mr. West, what would you plan to do if Russia fails to cooperate in the future?
I'm gonna show you what we are. We World War Z. We gonna run over that mountain until you listen to me, because I'm influential.
Jesus, you are currently $53 million in debt. Do you feel you are the best suitable candidate that can stabilize our economy?
We ain't financially there to the point to make sure that North is safe at all times. And that's the reason I'm turning it up right now.
Mrs. Kardashian, anything to add?
I wasted everyone's money. I wasted everyone's everything, and I feel bad.
We're at the presidential debates. You came dressed in rags from your latest Adidas clothing line. Any comments?
Don't nobody care about what Obama wearing.
You do realize we're broadcasting nationally, right?
Jesus can recognize Jesus.
I bet you believe in conspiracy theories.
Ain't none of us free. Ain't none of us billionaires. They would like us to think that we are free, but we completely control.
Yeah, all right, we're done here. Brought to you by the campaign to elect Sean Jay-Z Carter for president.
As the minute hand hit the 6, I knew I didn't have much time. My notebook and pencils flew in my bag and my feet pushed off the floor harder than ever before. When I reached the quad, I was placed with one of the hardest decisions of my life. Go around and lose precious time, or try to speed past the battlefield of people. The decision was clear. Those 3 minutes were too precious to lose. I looked down at my phone and sped past the screaming people. Sign this to raise the minimum wage. I didn't even look up. Sir, have you heard of Bernie Sanders? Once again, I pretended not to hear. When I finally got to the stairs, I thought I had finally made it. The promised land was so near, but one more obstacle stood in my way. A group of girls dragging slowly up the steps. It would be ages before I reached my destination. 15 minutes left and I hadn't even started. I was done for. I was never going to get accepted into a good university. And when any employer heard of me turning in my assignment late, they wouldn't hire me. But I had a fight left in me yet. As the computer finally logged me in and opened a Word doc, I saw a glimpse of hope. Somewhere in the distance there was a glimmer, a miracle. As I wrote what I thought, my fingers moved on the keyboard at the speed of light. There was hope. I could make it to class and turn my assignment in on time. I hit Control P and went on my way. I looked down at the time. 2 minutes left and my class was 3 minutes away. There was only one way I could make it. Run, Ricardo, run! Sweat dripping down my forehead as one foot leaped in front of the other. Run! Looked down at my clock, 30 seconds, and the classroom was now in sight. Great, I thought. Today will be a good day after all. As I took my final steps to the door, my heart beating fast, my deodorant clearly not working, I noticed a white rectangle about 8.5 by 11 inches. No, it can't be. The class is canceled. All of this for what? All of this work for what? Never again will I wait till the last minute to finish an assignment.
This is Adam Pominowski, downtown Santa Cruz, trying to find out some people's most awkward moments or conversations that they've ever had with their parents. Let's see what I get.
That conversation happened for me about 3 hours ago when my dad told me he watched a porn my ex-girlfriend was in.
The most awkward one was when she asked me about how was my first sexual encounter with my husband the first night after we got married, which, because I was a virgin, it was quite an awkward answer.
That's a little personal, so I'm going to go ahead and say no comment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most awkward conversation was the fact that I accidentally caught them doing something that I had no part in wanting to see. I saw it, and I didn't want to talk about it, and they wanted to.
I don't even know, dude.
I usually don't get in trouble, but my mom walked in on me and my friend smoking pot, and it was horrible. It was Valentine's Day, and she ended up to here with me, and that was like one of the last times we talked. So.
All right. Definitely one of the most awkward moments is at the dinner table. My parents can't go to dinner without talking about pregnancy, childbirth, menopause, you name it. Super awkward, not appropriate for dinner time at all.
All right, so it's Christmas Eve, and I walk into the bedroom, like not the bedroom, but the living room, and it's like probably 4 in the morning, and I think I see what do you guys call it, Santa Claus, right? Not Father Christmas?
Okay.
Father Christmas in England. So I think I see Father Christmas, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to say anything, I'm just going to go back upstairs. Next morning, I'm like, Mom, I saw Santa Claus, right? Father Christmas. She's like, no, that wasn't Santa Claus. I was like, okay, who is that? She's like, you'll find out soon enough. That's the end. I don't know who it was. Like, was it a boyfriend? Was it like some random person? I don't know, but there was some guy dressed as Santa, like.
Were you upstairs fornicating?
So when I was like 15, my dad was all pissed, and I was trying to get it out of him. And I asked him what was wrong, and he had read my journal thinking it was a notebook I had forgot. And he thought I had sex with a 20-year-old, but I didn't. But he found out I had sex for the first time at like 15.
Well, there you have it, folks. Mostly sex stuff, but interesting nonetheless.
When I was 17, the house I'd lived in since second grade went up for auction. My family was falling apart, and my brother and I were the first to leave. As we loaded all our worldly possessions onto a pickup truck, I looked back at my house. Shrouded in a blue tarp, with its paint faded and its front windows cracked, it already looked abandoned. But when I was a kid, my family was very well off. One string of layoffs later, the tech bubble popped, and the housing bubble popped. My father was out of work in his field for 4 years, and my parents had to file for bankruptcy. Today, we're recovering. We couldn't come home for 2 years, but thanks to the support of a few close friends, we got by. Above all, we got lucky. The fact of the matter is, most of us are 2 or 3 bad days away from losing everything. So if you meet somebody who has, give them your support, your empathy, your respect. Tomorrow it could be you. I'm Eric Bracken, a student in Rachel Goodman's Cabrillo broadcast writing class.
Are you involved? It's KUSB's Community Voices, first person singular.
I follow politics, but until this election cycle, I had never gotten involved. Recently, I saw a post online looking for volunteers to work with the Bernie Sanders campaign in Reno. I responded, and 3 days later, my husband and I packed our teen and toddler into our minivan and headed to Nevada for the weekend. The buzz of voices that surrounded us when we entered the office was as constant as the sound of the car engine had been during our 6-hour drive. Everywhere, jubilant supporters were calling potential voters, preparing to knock on doors, and animatedly discussing the latest poll results. Cole, a fresh-faced 23-year-old from Oregon's Working Families Party, recognized that we were new in the crowd. He greeted us with a smile and hug and led us to a table where we could discuss our next move. Before I knew it, we were all set up with different tasks and had joined the pandemonium. By the end of the week, I felt like a pro. Was it only 48 hours ago that we had arrived in the office without a clue? Before we left, we made plans to return the next weekend. And so we embarked on the drive home, knowing that we had made both friends and a difference. I'm Wendy Harris Guin, a student in Rachel Goodman's Cabrillo broadcast writing class.
Views expressed are those of the speaker. Community Voices on Independent Public Radio 88.9 KUSP was produced by Matilda Rand.
Hi, I'm Rodrigo Moraz, going around Cabrillo campus asking people a question. If you were on death row and were given one dish to eat, what would it be and why?
I would want like a huge Thai iced tea blended with lots of boba, and I would want some pad Thai and some like coconut soup with some lemongrass, and I would want something with like cilantro, maybe like sea bass, and then just like filet mignon with a lobster tail on top. And then for dessert, I'd probably want like a pineapple like upside down cake with like all kinds of like caramel, hella caramel.
Probably water.
Can't think of anything. Maybe a giant hit of LSD so the whole experience would be more colorful at the end. I don't think I'd have an appetite if I was going to die.
Menudo made by my mom because it's the best thing I've ever had in my life.
I would probably eat sushi because it's my favorite food and I could pretty much eat it for every meal, all day, every day.
Some very expensive Italian food because I like Italian food despite the fact that I'm from Mexico, so.
I would probably try something human.
Anything drowned in sour cream.
A burger, French fries.
I would probably eat some pozole because it would remind me of my mom.
Prime rib, steak type of stuff.
I would probably choose Eggs Benedict, and then like a pile of bacon, like an ungodly pile of bacon, because I love Eggs Benedict, and you know, bacon is bacon.
Probably go with lemon chicken with gravy on a bowl of rice and with one of those fancy salads on the side. You know, the ones with the feta that are like really expensive. I never buy them when I go out, but I figure, you know, if I was dying, why think about the expense?
Filet mignon because it's delicious.
Welcome back, everyone. Hope you guys enjoyed our commercials and commentaries. Remember, we've created them throughout the semester, and this class is open to anyone in the community who wants to learn to write for the broadcast media. This has been Ricardo Bundes, Eric Bracken, Wendy Harris, Rodrigo Moraz, and Eric Beatty with Rachel Goodman's Cabrillo College writing for the broadcast media class. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you.